Batu Khan versus Kyiv, how the Mongols crushed the Rus. Imagine this. It is the year 1223 in a quiet riverside village called Zarub. A haughty prince flicks his wrist, envoys are cut down, and history itself shudders. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. From that single arrogant gesture, the dominoes begin to fall, leading to the battle of the Kalka River, the death of princes crushed beneath wooden platforms, the rise of Batu Khan, and the storm that would obliterate Kyiv in 1240. But how did one flick of the wrist doom an entire civilization? Stay with us, because by the end, you'll understand not only how the Mongols shattered the Rus, but how their invasion reshaped the destiny of Eastern Europe forever. Picture it, a sleepy riverside village, Zarub, where the Grand Prince of Kiev, Mstislav III, sits puffed up like a rooster who thinks he still rules the barnyard. His title, Grand Prince, is more ceremonial than powerful, like being crowned king of the office printer when the thing jams every 5 minutes. Into this scene march 10 Mongol envoys, hardened men, weathered by the steppe winds. They politely, Mongol politely, demand the extradition of the Cumans who had fled into Rus lands. The Cumans were steppe nomads too, but they had just been steamrolled by the Mongols and were now hiding under Mstislav's wing. Mstislav, brimming with arrogance, scoffs. "Who are these horsemen to demand anything of me?" Then, with a flick of his hand, like he's ordering another round of mead, his Druzhina warriors step forward and cut down the envoys. This was not just rude. This was a cosmic-level mistake. Killing Mongol envoys was like poking a bear, except the bear has 100,000 horsemen, siege engineers, and a grudge that lasts generations. The Mongols, led by Subutai and Jebe, 2 generals so cunning they could probably win a chess match blindfolded, were not amused. They had warned the Rus not to meddle. But Mstislav, drunk on pride and Kuman friendship bracelets, rallied 40,000 men, Rus princes and Cumans alike, to face the Mongols. The Mongols brought fewer than 20,000. But numbers don't matter when your generals treat war like a masterclass in psychological manipulation. Subutai exploited the disunity of the Rus princes, each fighting for their own glory, not the collective good. Result? The Rus army was surrounded, annihilated, and the nobles captured. Mstislav himself was given a death so humiliating it deserves a grim chuckle. Crushed slowly beneath a wooden platform, while Mongols feasted on top. Imagine being the entertainment at your own execution. Loving the story so far? Don't just watch history, own it. Hit subscribe, and tap the bell to stay with us. Build with us, because every twist, betrayal, and legacy comes alive. After Kalka, Subutai didn't stick around. He returned east, but not before gathering priceless intel. Maps, politics, weaknesses, and the fact that the Rus princes couldn't agree on lunch, let alone military strategy. The Rus principalities were like a medieval soap opera. Brothers feuding, cousins scheming, alliances breaking faster than cheap pottery. They were living on borrowed time. In 1227, Genghis Khan died. His son Ogedei took over, and the Mongols, reinvigorated, finished off the Khwarezmian and Jin empires. By 1235, Ogedei convened a Grand Qurultay, a Mongol council that was basically a war-planning festival. The decision? Expand westward, into the lands of the Cumans, Volga Bulgars, and the Rus. This wasn't just any expedition. It was a family affair. Batu Khan, grandson of Genghis, led the charge, with Subutai as the brains of the operation. Other grandsons, Guyuk, Monka, tagged along. It was like the Mongol Avengers assembling, except their superpower was mass conquest. By autumn 1236, a 100,000-man army was ready. Ethnic Mongols formed the core, but they brought along Uyghurs, Tanguts, Khitans, Jurchens, and even Chinese siege engineers. These weren't just horsemen. They had the full toolkit to smash walled cities. First stop, the Volga Bulgars and Cumans. Centuries of Rus struggle against these foes ended in a month. The Mongols crushed them like ants under a boot. When Batu finally turned toward Rus lands, he didn't see a united nation. He saw dominoes. Each principality was a separate piece, waiting to be knocked over. Mstislav III had once managed to stitch together a coalition, but even then, the princes fought as separate units. That disunity had cost them dearly at Kalka. Now, with Batu and Subutai marching west, the Rus were about to learn that history doesn't forgive arrogance or flicks of the wrist. Mstislav's fatal arrogance was like a man refusing to pay parking tickets, only to discover the enforcers are the Mongols. The Rus princes treated war like a medieval talent show. Each wanted the spotlight, none wanted teamwork. Subutai, meanwhile, was the puppet master, pulling strings while sipping fermented mare's milk and chuckling at how easy it was to bait the Rus. The Mongol horde thundered across the frozen steppes like a tidal wave of hooves and steel. Their destination? The proud city of Ryazan. Outnumbered, outmatched, but not out of courage, the defenders resolved to resist. For 5 days the walls held, until the Chinese siege engineers rolled up their catapults. Timber walls? Pfft. To them, it was like knocking over a child's toy fort. The walls crumbled, and what followed was a nightmare written in fire and blood. The Chronicle of Novgorod tells us, they killed men, women, children, monks, nuns, priests, some by fire, some by sword. They violated nuns' and priests' wives in the presence of their mothers and sisters. And where was Grand Prince Yuri of Vladimir Suzdal? Standing by, doing nothing, while Ryazan burned to ash. Imagine the neighbors watching your house burn down and saying, well, that's unfortunate, before going back to their soup. Prince Roman Egorovich, brother of Ryazan's slain ruler, fled with his druzhina along the Kalka River. But the Mongols weren't about to let him slip away. Pursuing him was none other than Kolgan, son of Genghis Khan himself. At Kolomna, Yuri finally stirred from his stupor and sent troops to aid Roman. A battle erupted, chaotic, bloody, desperate. The Rus were crushed, Roman slain, but Kolgan too was struck down. This was huge. The death of a Genghisid was like spilling royal blood. It demanded vengeance. Any thought Yuri had of surrendering peacefully to the Khan evaporated. The Mongols would now unleash fury without restraint. The Mongols swept across northern Rus like a plague. Moscow, then a small, irrelevant town, was sacked. Vladimir Suzdal fell in 3 days. Yuri fled north, only to be hunted down at the Sit River, where his army was butchered in what was less a battle and more a medieval abattoir. With Yuri's death, the dream of a united Rus resistance died too. Batu Khan split his forces into contingents, each unleashed to burn, pillage, and massacre. 14 cities fell in months. Why so successful? Flat terrain made Rus cities easy prey for siege weapons. Chinese catapults smashed timber walls like twigs. Rus disunity. Princes squabbled, watched neighbors burn, then acted surprised when the Mongols knocked on their own gates. The Rus began to see the Mongols not as mere men, but as God's punishment. The chronicle laments, we always turn to evil, like swine wallowing in sin, and for this we receive punishment from God. Amidst despair, sparks of defiance flared. In Kozelsk, 12-year-old Prince Vasily rallied citizen militias. For 2 months they resisted, even launching a sortie that slaughtered thousands of Mongols, destroyed siege engines, and killed the sons of 3 commanders. But the Mongols returned with vengeance. Kozelsk fell, Vasily and every soul within slaughtered. Yet the resistance was so fierce the Mongols dubbed Kozelsk the Evil City, a name whispered with dread. Then came Evpaty Kolovrat, the bogatyr of vengeance. Away in Chernigov when Ryazan burned, he returned to find his home a charred husk. His oath? Bloody revenge. With 1,700 survivors, he struck Batu's rearguard, annihilating thousands. Batu sent his relative Kostovrul to stop him. Evpaty killed him in single combat, then hacked through his entire retinue in a berserk fury. Finally, Mongol siege weapons brought him down. But Batu, impressed, returned Evpaty's body to his men with respect. Even the Khan admired his courage. The Mongols rested, then resumed their storm. Pereyaslavo burned. Chernigov resisted outside its walls, predictably slaughtered. The gateway to Kiev was open. Kiev, the mother of cities, jewel of Rus, stood proud but vulnerable. Prince Mikhail fled to Hungary, leaving Voivode Dmitro in charge. The Mongols sent envoys demanding submission. Dmitro executed them. By now, we all know what that meant: total annihilation. The Mongols crossed the frozen Dnieper. Chinese catapults reduced Kiev's walls to rubble. The horde poured in. Street fighting raged, defenders retreating to the Church of the Blessed Virgin. Civilians crammed inside, climbing balconies to escape arrows. Then, disaster! The weight collapsed the roof, crushing hundreds beneath. By December 6th, Kyiv was in Mongol hands. Dmitro was spared for his bravery. But of 50,000 souls, only 2,000 survived. The city was torched. Of 40 landmarks, only 6 remained. Kiev, once the radiant heart of Rus, was reduced to ashes. When Batu Khan's horde finished its rampage, the northern Rus lands were nothing but ashes. Villages flattened, cities torched, churches toppled, and the once proud timber walls of Rus fortresses reduced to splinters. The south fared slightly better, but don't get too comfortable. Its jewel, Kyiv, the mother of cities, had been obliterated in 1240. Imagine Rome after the Visigoths, or Constantinople after the Fourth Crusade. Kiev was reduced to a smoldering ruin, its golden domes blackened, its scholars silenced, its saints' relics scattered. Did the Rus give up immediately? No. For nearly a decade, pockets of resistance clung to life, especially in Galicia-Volhynia, the westernmost stronghold. Brave princes and militias fought on like stubborn weeds sprouting from scorched earth. But by 1250, the inevitable had arrived. The entire former Kievan Rus was under Mongol domination. The princes who once squabbled over crowns now bowed to foreign warlords, paying tribute to the Khan. To grasp the magnitude of this catastrophe, think of the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Before the Mongols, the Kievan Rus was a land of saints, scholars, and merchants. Its cathedrals gleamed, its scribes copied holy texts, its princes dreamed of empire. After the Mongols, cities reduced to smoldering rubble, culture and learning buried beneath ashes, survivors living under the yoke of foreign lords, whom they saw not as men but as the scourge of God. The Chronicle of Novgorod captured the despair. God let the pagans on us for our sins. We wallow in filth like swine, and for this we are punished. The Rus world was no longer a proud heir to Byzantium. It was a conquered land, a pale shadow of its former glory. Yet amidst the ruin, one city remained untouched by Mongol wrath. The oldest of the Rus cities, a place steeped in legend and history, survived the storm. This was Novgorod. The Lord Novgorod the Great, the ancient trading hub, the city of merchants and veche assemblies. Whether by luck, diplomacy, tribute, or sheer Mongol calculation, Novgorod escaped the fiery fate of Kiev, Ryazan, Vladimir, and Moscow. While the rest of Rus lay in ruins, Novgorod endured, its markets still bustling, its churches still standing, its people still free, at least for the moment. It became a beacon of survival, a reminder that not all was lost, even in the darkest of times. By 1250, the Mongols had reshaped the destiny of Eastern Europe. The Rus principalities were shattered, their culture scarred, their unity gone. Yet from the ashes, new powers would eventually rise: Moscow, Novgorod, and others, each carrying the memory of Batu Khan's storm. The Mongol invasion was not just a conquest, it was a civilizational earthquake. And though the Rus bent under the yoke, they did not break forever. Blood, fire, survival. The tale of Batu Khan's campaign is not just about destruction, it is about the rebirth that comes after ruin. And that brings us to the end of this epic saga. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click the bell button. It greatly helps the channel.